Afternoon, councillor, staff, and to our visitors in the gallery. I apologise for running a little bit late this afternoon with the start of our meeting. We have changed our start of meeting date time to 4:30, but due to circumstances beyond our control, we're a quarter of an hour late today. But I would now like to officially open the meeting at 4:43, and the first thing I'd like to do is acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land we meet on this afternoon, the Wiradjuri people, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. This meeting is being live streamed, and as I mentioned earlier, our ratings will probably go up tonight. I know there's several people tuning in to see on some decisions to be made, so that's just to make the gallery aware that anything you say may be picked up by the microphones because they are sensitive. I know that personally, and streamed live to our audience. In the case of an emergency, the exit policy is through the two glass doors to the chambers, out the foyer, turn right through the front glass doors and to the main street and wait further instructions. Apologies. I have apologies from Councillor Rolls, Councillor O'Connor, sorry. Councillor Rolls is present, of course. Councillor O'Connor, Councillor Tuckerman and Councillor Greg Armstrong and Councillor Matthew Stadmiller. I have a part apology from Councillor Wallace, who was hoping to be here, but he's unable to be here at the moment, so we'll put him down as an apology and see if he arrives late. So could I have someone please move that we accept those apologies? Move Councillor Rolls, second to Councillor Flannery. All those in favour? Aye. Thank you. So be it. Councillor Wallace, as we speak, take that apology off. I said it was a part apology. We were just waiting for Councillor. Not sure if that's okay. Very good. So before we go any further, Councillor Wallace, we just opened the meeting. We just done the apologies, and at this stage I will now go to public forum. We have two speakers in public forum this afternoon, and the first speaker will be Blake Apps, and it will be on the item 19351, the Young Joint Use Library and Community Facility Deed and Lease, speaking for the recommendation. So Blake, if you'd like to step up to the podium, please. You will have 5 minutes to do your presentation, and I'll give you a little nod about 4 minutes, see how you're going. So welcome.
Mr Mayor and fellow councillors, my name is Blake Apps and this is Abby Daniels, and we're currently in Year 12 and are captains at Young High School. We are here today to give our thoughts and opinions on item 12.5, the new library and community facility, as well as speak on behalf of the community's youth.
The new library provides the opportunity to enhance the interactions between local schools. The small schools and local primary schools will be able to use the resources as well as the community in a safe environment. Having this space, we'll be able to join together for events such as debating between the schools or public speaking.
This facility will also provide modern learning resources and technologies for future generations. These will be available to both students and members of the community and will promote lifelong learning with the facilities being open all day. It will also give rural students the same opportunities and resources as that the urban students also receive, making it more equal.
The new library will create greater usage for the park. The area will continue to be utilised. Those coming to use the library and their resources will utilise the space of the park. It's more practical for the families that are able to let their kids enjoy the park space and the library's resources. The library will be accessible after hours for students and community members who will be able to access the resources that may not be available to them within their homes, like the computers, internet, books, videos, but also the help from staff and the library members around them.
With this, students will be able to showcase any major project work or any work in general to members of the public, and not just students and teachers themselves. So it gives them the essential skills that you need in the wider world of confidence and public speaking even. It'll also be a very important development for the region. Students can also gain knowledge from the community members and vice versa, so such as guest speakers or artists or poets, musicians and etc. can present in an allocated area, and this will be done without disturbing any other school events that go on or disturbing classes.
The students can continue to work in a safe and supervised environment along with their community members and families. Within the plans there's a children's fenced play area and a cafe which will provide a safe, enjoyable environment for parents or sole parents with their kids. Students don't have to leave the school grounds to attend events that we can hold within the library, the space that we don't have at the moment.
And that's about all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Hilltops councillors. We'd like to genuinely thank you for having the foresight to support this project. Our community will be enhanced in many ways, and you'll be truly be creating a legacy that our region can be proud of.
Thank you both for that, and my apologies to Abby. I didn't realise you were speaking together. I was going to call you up separate. So thank you very much for that, and in future, as I've said before, is in good hands. We appreciate your contribution. Okay, the next item on the agenda, could we all be upstanding, please, for the expressions of sympathy? We'll stand and have a moment's silence, please, in sympathy for the following people: Elizabeth Gibson, Margaret Malone, Colin Lawrence, Sheila Rogerson, Keith Dodges, Dorothy Spencer, Norman O'Reilly, Rita Hughes, Kerry Johnson, John Wilson, Keith Shea. Thank you. So the next item we'll deal with, first of all, we'll go to the confirmation of some minutes, and that will be the confirmation of the minutes. I'm just making sure I've done all the housekeeping I have of our ordinary meeting in 25th of September 2019. Move, Councillor Manchester.
Just an amendment. I get over to my council attendance. The other team meeting was the 10th of September. I think the vice to be set and 11th of September the council workshop.
Thank you. Thank you.
Second.
And so that's seconded by Councillor Flannery with those couple of amendments to the minutes. Everyone else is happy with that? I'll put that. All those in favour?
Okay, can I have a comment before we do?
Comment, as in?
One of the follow-ups from the Hilltops Local Traffic Advisory Committee. This was passed as a resolution, and by the time the event came on for the Kite Festival in Harden, that resolution was changed. And as chairman of that committee, I've had comment from some of the expert people that sit on my committee that they won't accept the changes other than the adopted council minutes.
Thank you for Councillor Walker. It's probably could have been a question on notice, but with confirmation of minutes, councillors from now on, I've had it come up a couple of times, it will be confirmation of the minutes. If there are amendments to be made, any questions in regard to those minutes will be done with questions on notice, I would suggest. So, Councillor Wallace.
Yes, I'm not sure which category this falls into, Mr. Mayor, but I just wondered. I noticed when I was late that it was noted that the time I arrived, and I just wonder whether those minutes reflect the actual times that councillors left the meeting in September.
Question.
Just through the chair, which page are you looking at there, Councillor? And I'll be able to...
Fairly early departure.
So it was 12.2. No, it didn't, but I can look at it. No,
happy to have-
it did not, and we'll make sure we record that. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay. All right, having that been said, we've been moving a second for those minutes. All those in agreement? Thank you. So be it. The next item is the confirmation of the minutes of our extraordinary meeting held on the 1st of October. Someone like to move those? Moved Councillor Horton, seconded Councillor Manchester. Everyone's happy with that? I'll put those. All those in favour? Thank you. So be it. Go to item 19342, which is the confirmation of the minutes from our extraordinary meeting on the 9th of October. Moved Councillor Horton, seconded Councillor Wallace. Thank you. All those in favour? Again? So be it. Thank you, councillors. That brings me to item 7, the disclosures of interest. Has any councillor got any matters where they think they may be conflict of interest in our agenda tonight? Now is the time to recognise that. No, it's a nil. Mayoral minutes, they're a nil. Before we start on the item, and I'll get the concurrence of council to bring an item forward because Speaker spoke on it, but we'll just go through the mayoral reports and that first. The Mayor's report is there and the diary. I think it covered most of the meetings. We did have a meeting when I returned on last Friday from Sydney with our fellow Eric, Councillor Armstrong and the General Manager in regard to our financials reporting. That happened last Friday. That's the only thing that's not on there. Happy to take questions on any item that's on there if anyone's got any questions in regard to that diary. Been pretty hectic. So we'll look at the other councillor reports in the same vein. There's a report there from Councillor Horton, which covers through his activities, and there's also a report there from Councillor Rolls. Anyone like to speak to their report? Councillor Horton, I'll start there.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. As you've suggested, there are 19 Hilltops engagements listed, and they're in this current business paper. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rolls.
I'm happy with what's there, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Wallace.
Yeah, just meetings as minute, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Manchester.
The meetings are limited, the 2 extraordinary meetings and attendance at the New South Wales Government Conference 14th and 16th.
Thank you. Councillor Walker.
Meetings as minuted, and I'll mention one more is the Wright Park Wind Farm Community Consultative Committee, and just to let the council know and the community know that there's that project will be beginning probably early in the new year, and committee meetings are being advertised now for people to want to ask more questions about that. They should be advertised in the near future.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Flannery.
Meetings as minuted and LEP workshop on the 15th of October, I think it was.
Thank you. Would someone like to move that those councillor reports be accepted? Moved Councillor Rolls, seconded Councillor Horton. All those in favour? Aye. So be it. Thank you, councillors. So before we go any further, I would like someone to move that we change standing order. Moved Councillor Flannery, seconded Councillor Manchester to bring item number, there we are, 19351, the Young Joint Use Library and Community Facility Deed and Lease item forward, given that it's normal practice when we have speakers in public forum that we deal with that matter so they don't have to thereby stand by the rest of the night and deal with our ordinary run of business. Councillors, the report is there and the recommendation is in front of you. Before I do anything, we'll start by getting a mover and a seconder, if I can, for that item. Moved Councillor Horton, seconded Councillor Rolls. Okay, we're going to move in a seconder. Councillors, I'm in your hands as to how you would like to deal with this. If you feel you need to go in committee, let me know. I will speak to this report in some detail. if you'd like me to do that first, or I'm in your hands how you want to deal with it. Happy?
Yeah, I'm happy for you to speak to it, but I think we should go into committee afterwards.
Okay. All right, councillors, I will speak to this. I spoke to it last night at a joint use steering committee that I called a meeting of last night to inform them where we're up to with this project. The report's quite detailed. For the benefit of councillors and our people in our gallery and live streaming, this project has been in the wind for some considerable time. It hasn't always been an easy ride. There's been numerous issues to deal with, sentiment from the community that we respected over a number of different issues. It's on the public record that when this first became to council in regards to funding, that I in particular voted against it for some reasons. The majority of council voted for it, and from that day forward I've been speaking to this joint use facility with a lot of resolute, because it was a majority of council who said this would be good for our community, and I have got on board with that, and I completely agree 100%. What my role was in representing with council and with Councillor Tuckerman on a number of project reference groups and meetings that we've had, too many to mention in the last 2 years, here and in Sydney, was to make sure that this project obtained the big benefit for both sides. The most beneficial use of this building for our school and our future generations, and the two young speakers tonight, as well as our current members of our community, and taking into consideration the ageing demographics of our community. So there were some hurdles to get over along the way in how that was going to be dealt with students and the public, and there were different groups meeting on how the schematics would work, and my main concern was, from day one, was obtaining value for money. The second thing was making it felt, wherever it landed being built, and as we all know now it is all dedicated on school land, that it had a community welcome to it, that when you walked to the entrance of this beautiful new building it will be, if it happens, that you felt like it was part of the community. So that was important. I dealt with numerous levels of school infrastructure in New South Wales along the process of this, and up until probably 2 months ago, was sitting pretty comfortable with how dealings were going and how the benefits were going to flow to the school and to the community. What happened in the last couple of months was that word that we all hate, budgets, came into play and dollars come into play. And for schools infrastructure in New South Wales to put this project through the next gateway, they have to have a 20% contingency. They couldn't get there with the cost plans they had in front of them. So they came from Sydney and met with myself and the General Manager in regard to that matter and said, look, we need to trim the cloth, as they say, to make sure we can get to that gateway. I had concerns about where they were going to trim that cloth from. What's happened in the last 6 weeks, and another round of serious meetings here in Young and in Sydney as late as last Wednesday, was that I've determined with Council that the cutbacks to the community part relate to the landscaping in part. To trim up some dollars there was a reduction in some money to be spent on the ITC system, which we've been assured that we will get the same result for less dollars. It's just I compared it to having Nike to an ordinary pair of sand shoes, I think, but they tell me the same result. That's not my field. Can be achieved, and the General Manager and staff have followed that up with that, with our tech people. So hopefully that is correct. I believe, and I have no reason not to believe the school infrastructure experts that tell me that is right. The other sticking point from Council's point of view, and indeed from my point of view, is the ongoing operational costs of this project. We have to be comfortable that any decision we make doesn't leave our community in a worse space in 4 or 5 years' time. So to that resolve, I had earlier negotiated with Council and schools to have a set costing for the operational cost of $70,000 for the first 4 years, given that we were currently paying a bit over $60,000 for the 350 square metres we had. With this new facility, we will have 1,050 square metres dedicated to the community, along with 311 square metres, I think it is, of shared space with the school. And the school will have up to, off the top of my head, 1,400 square metres of use for the school in this 2.5-storey facility. So that I was pretty comfortable with that, and that was signed off. What happened then was Schools Infrastructure informed me that from year 5 on it would be on a cost basis as it was worked out. Pardon me. I wasn't all comfortable with that because councils work on a 10-year financial plan, and I said I'd like to have the last year 5 to year 10 fixed as well. And after some toing and froing, they came back to me and said, well, we can look at that. The costings and the research they did told them that number could be anywhere from $110,000 to $130,000 a year. That scared me. I thought it seemed excessive given councils' lack of ability to increase revenue. We're very restricted of how we can, as councillors know, raise revenue. So they came from Sydney to meet with Edwina and I, the General Manager and I, a couple of weeks ago, and explained that was the bottom line, that was it. We held a workshop. I told the councillors present at that workshop that I wasn't happy in any way, shape or form in that regard. Last week I was in Sydney at a local government conference, and I made an appointment to speak with Schools Infrastructure in New South Wales last Wednesday, which they took. And through the day in the negotiations there, I made it very clear to them that I thought that was above our community's ability to raise those funds. And while I couldn't move with the landscaping and the money there, we had to have that number to get through this gateway to go to tender. I made it pretty clear that unless that $110,000 figure moved, I might have some problems, myself personally, voting for this project, which would be very disappointing given the work that we've put into it. At about 6:40 on Wednesday night, last Wednesday night, I received a phone call from Schools Infrastructure New South Wales to inform me that, albeit reluctantly, I think, they were happy enough to agree to, from year 5 to year 10, at a fixed cost of $90,000 for our operational costs. I was very pleased to get that phone call. That allows our council and our community to have surety and certainty about the cost of this building and operational costs for the next 10 years. I think that's something that this whole council is to be congratulated on. There's been a lot of work and a lot of meetings had and workshops had, and it's not all over yet. But I'm very comfortable as to where the deed and the lease arrangement is at this present time in regard to those matters. I could speak, I will stop because I've spoken enough, I think, but we all know, and the community need to know, because there was some misunderstanding about the rent and the operational costs ongoing. It's very clear and stated in the documents. The rent is $1 a year upon demand. So if our rent's demanded, it will cost $1 a year. The $70,000 from 1 to 4 and the $90,000 from 5 to 10 year I'd speak of are operational costs that we would incur no matter where we were. The simple fact, it is a little bit more than what we currently pay, but we will have over 3 times the space to utilise. From my point of view, that's where I've been in the last couple of weeks with this project, and that's where it's landed. And Schools Infrastructure New South Wales, on giving me that go ahead with that $90,000, had asked could I get it to this meeting, because until council, if we decide to sign off on this deed and lease, they can then go to tender. They cannot go to tender until this deed and lease is signed off. Having said that, once they go to tender, they're going to a 3-month tender process. The reason for that, the experts and the people in the industry tell me, is to enable everyone to have a good look at it and hopefully get a competitive tender, because everyone has enough time to look at it and do the costings. So that's the reason for an extended length of tender, they tell me. And the only if it went pear-shaped also and went wrong and the tenders all came back in considerably higher than the money that was available, there's a 20-day sunset clause for both parties to say, sorry, we're out. Having said that, the people that work in this realm in the world and know these things are pretty confident that the figures they've done have estimated and costed out will be pretty much close to what the market will say. So that's their business and they do it day in, day out. So we take that on their word that these figures will be close, and we hope that's the case. So from my point of view, that's where it sits from me at the moment. So I'm happy if someone would like to move us into committee. And moved Councillor Flannery, seconded Councillor Wallace. Thank you. All those in favour? Aye. Okay, councillors, we're in committee now for comments and any questions around the table to deal with the matter.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, thank you. I've been involved with the library combined with the school, and we've had lots of issues, lots of concerns, starting with the heritage issues, the fact that, well, it wasn't a fact, but the concern that it was going to infringe into Carrington Park, which it hasn't done and it won't. The fact that it may not be aesthetically pleasing with the whole area and in particular with the courthouse. And we've had a minority of the area or community just against it for whatever reason. But it's going to be great for the community. All those issues have been resolved. It's not infringing. It is aesthetically pleasing. So it's a wonderful asset to the Hilltops, to Young, Harden, BOOROWA, all the whole area. And I must say that our mayor's done a big job. He's had a lot of heartaches, a lot of sleepless nights, and a lot of problems, and he's worked hard, and I appreciate that, and I'm sure we all do. So you're to be congratulated, Mr. Mayor. I believe this will come to fruition tonight, and down the track, our school children and their children will benefit. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Horden.
Mr. Mayor, just a few questions.
Yep.
On page 226 of the printed version, the key elements of the lease include, and the fourth dot point say, if there is an early termination of the agreement by either party, and then if you flick over to page 293, clause 25.2, it says Schools Infrastructure New South Wales or Department of Education are the only ones. 292 it is, sorry. 25.2, compensation if the landlord terminates the lease in accordance with clause 25.1. I did ask at the last time we discussed the library who has the right to terminate the lease, whether either party do, and I was advised at that meeting that either party do, but I can see nothing in the termination notices that give the council any rights of termination, only Department of Education. So we probably should clarify that with the legal people before we sign. I assume no one can answer that now.
Through the chair, the right to terminate is, sorry, I'm just looking at that, it's in the deed, not the lease, and that is under clause, I think it's 7.2, let me have a look. Right to rescind, that's after the tender. The termination event is item 12 on page 15. And this of the, sorry, it's page 15 of the project deed. Termination, sorry, termination, right. That's not answering that. Look, my understanding. Can I
get her to interrupt a moment? Could I have all phones turned off, please? Thank you.
Look, through the chair, the aim of the compensation clause is actually to protect council should the department wish to terminate, and so hence the draft in the lease actually reflects that. In relation to termination is under page 15 of the deed, and it does actually spell out how we will terminate. So in relation to the wording, the exit is really designed not for either party to exit it at any time in the 10 years. It's for in the event that the Schools Infrastructure, Department of Education, as it would be then, wanted to terminate our tenancy, that we would have compensation rights in relation to that, and that is the way that this clause has been set up. It's not to give council an exit during the project for any reason. It is to compensate council should the state government decide that we were no longer to be the tenant.
So if it's not working for the community for some reason, do we have any rights to get out with any compensation?
Through the chair, no. When we actually signed the deed and lease, we were actually going into this project as is, and we're all in.
Okay, I mean that was how I read it, which I think is misleading in the commentary with regard to getting out. Question for perhaps the finance people. It refers, I'll have to get to the correct page, but it notes that our expenses so far on the current library are $62,000 per annum. We are paying $70,000 for the first 4 years. Does the $70,000 include depreciation, and the $60,000 that's currently noted as expenses includes depreciation? I find it hard to believe we're only spending $800 on building maintenance and $80 on furniture, but that said, is it a like-for-like contribution, or is depreciation on top of the $70,000 expense?
The financial people can speak if they like, but it's my full understanding that no, we hold no depreciation on this building. Department of Education carries it all.
Okay.
So through the chair, the indicator figure that councils and the mayor came up with in relation to negotiations were to reflect what would be the similar outgoings that we're already paying that would be comparable to us being a tenant in this building, because the lease agreement needs to reach an outgoing figure that's reflective of a certain range of costs for the landlord, the Department of Education and Training. So what we did to come up with a figure, an indicative figure, was to have a look at that. So we don't own the building, so there's no depreciation involved. However, the $70,000 does cover the outgoings for the building, which will include, rudimentary maintenance and cleaning. So certainly, council is getting a very good deal in relation to that, because clearly the state has discounted that heavily to us, given our financial inability to raise significant amounts of money in relation to the library, so that they've worked very closely with us to ensure that the costs are as close to what our current library is, even though it's nearly 3 times the size.
So how will the $6.5 million, noting that $5 million is in grants, so in particular the $1.5 million of loan funds, how will that be treated in our accounts?
Through the chair, it's the issue for us is around taxation and GST. All of the funds are ex-GST, so it is that's the recent taxation advice that I've circulated. It's about how that money is actually treated in relation to both of the funding grants. What happens is that both the Regional Cultural Fund and the Office of Local Government, who administer the Stronger Communities funding, actually provide us with that GST, and we actually claim that back. In relation to our portion of the $1.5 million, we are actually liable for the GST payment, so we will actually pay GST on that. The net position for council is a beneficial position. We will actually be in credit, apart from the cash flow timing of that GST payment.
I'd just like to point something out before anything else to mention, before someone else might have brought it up. On page 229, up the top under cultural grant funds, it says $3.5 million. That's incorrect. The report reads to $3 million, but the headline says 3.5, so that number is incorrect, just for reference sake. Sorry, Councillor Flannery, you have some more?
Just one other thing. On page 279, cleaning, noting that our $70,000, I assume, is inclusive of cleaning. It does say, clause 7.1, the tenant at its cost at all times must keep the premises in a clean and tidy condition. It also notes further in the report about they may vary the cost. There's an inconsistency between 2 clauses which I don't, regarding expenses.
Operational costs, and it comes under cleaning, as I said, is set at that money. That $70,000 is it. That's our contribution. I misunderstand what you meant about?
Probably the point is there's a few, clause 7.1 needs deleting then.
Okay.
Six 6.5, 1 and 2 I think need deleting. Five 5.2.3A needs deleting.
Anyone like to comment on this stuff?
Just through the chair, 5.2A, just around the landlord providing us with a written estimate. Even though we know what that estimate will be, it's probably good practice for them to continually reconfirm that each year.
Fair enough. It needs rewording on deleting, but anyway.
Yep. So, any other 6.2?
6.51 needs deleting. I mean, there needs to be further work done on this agreement.
Through the chair, it's had 6 months' worth of legal work in relation to this, and it is a commercial lease, and these are standard clauses in relation to a commercial tenancy. And our advice from our solicitor is that the lease and the deed represent council's instructions, and they, and their advice is that they are adequate for what we're trying to achieve.
Thank you. Councillors, or Councillor Flannery?
Finally, to the Mayor, I think you've done a very good job on what's been a difficult process. I think that in the broad scheme of the council and Young in particular, it'll be a great asset. I do intend on voting for it. And I think whilst there certainly are reservations that many, or some in the community I have, as Councillor Horton said, the overall building and facility I think will provide a lot of people with a lot of beneficial use. I think it's a lot of money that will benefit our council as a whole, and hopefully will benefit the younger generation in particular, as well as those who use the cultural facilities. So for all those who are involved, and in particular you and the General Manager, I think you've done a very good job, and Wendy as well.
Thank you for those kind words, Councillor Flannery. Appreciate it. Councillor Rolls, comment?
Through the Mayor, I'm just reading through this. In the recommendation, I have a feeling that just a word has been left out. Is this where you want me to say this? The authority to, I would like to see to finalise and execute the joint use facility.
Delegate to the General Manager the authority to
finalise and execute.
Finalise.
It's finalised, then it's all that minuati that can be.
So
fixed.
would the mover and seconder have any problems with that? Fine by. Who was the other? Yep. They're happy with that. So you put that in there, all right? That's okay. Noted. Thank you. Any councillor like to have any comment? Councillor Wallace.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I've been strong behind this project from the outset, so I'll definitely be voting for it. But just some concern about, and I do understand that we've got to go and get a quote, or the department does. So the design may or may not change, but I do note that the lower ground floor design, as it's represented in the deed, has changed. Well, at least my area of interest, the multimedia room, has changed quite significantly since the last drawing I saw. I don't know if that's detrimentally or not, but anyway. And the other thing is that the schematic landscape design is not in it. Is there one? Is there not one? Do we not see one?
With the landscaping, that is where part of the cutbacks were. In the latest one that would have been seen, showed the pathway and some landscaping, and the pathways leading away from the library down through the park, as well as some seating that was proposed to be on that walkway. That has been taken off due to those financial restraints. The other thing I might mention now, and I think it leads me into it, and I don't, is because of those cost factors, during this project there was two very different streams of thought in regard to vehicle access. and it was talked about at every steering committee. There was one group who thought it definitely should have vehicle access. There was another party who said they didn't want vehicles in our park. As it currently stands, there will be no vehicle access to the new library, and it's got nothing to do with the debate on either side. It is strictly a financial matter at this time. That is not to say that it might not happen, as with additional landscaping, and as Councillor Wallace just said, they've got to go to tender and we've got to see the result of that. There may be room to have something done in that area at a later stage, but at this particular stage everyone needs to know that there is no financial capability, or capacity I should say, for that to happen at this stage. I am sure that issue won't go away with some of our elderly community members, and nor should it, and we can look at it and try and address it at a further date when hopefully more funds are available to that, and depending on the result of the tenders that come back in. But I just want to make sure everyone's well aware of that fact. But yeah, so the schematic, the actual design and look of what the landscaping is always planned to be, Councillor, you're aware that I've asked for it numerous times, and all I ever saw was a grey line on a white bit of paper, and it didn't really resonate with me. But till the end, where I had to concede that some of it was going to be taken away, which disappoints me greatly. But in the scheme of things, the thing I said to the steering committee last night was, one thing we know for sure, the landscaping and the pathway will be the last things done, because they will use that section to finish the building off and do the building works, and the last things that done will be repairing that area and putting everything back and putting the pathway in. So by that time, who knows, it could be 18 months, 2 years. We may have some funds from other sources or other means that we can then finalise that, or the tender might have been under. So there's still hope left there, but it won't go away. It will be there to address at a later stage. But yeah. So anyone else like to have any commentary before we come out of committee? No? Okay. Would someone like to move that we come out of committee? Councillor Rolls, seconded Councillor Horton. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you, councillors, for that considered debate. With that debate being done, and this is probably a big moment in our council, it could be, I will now put the recommendation that dot point A, endorse for signing the joint use facility project deed and lease, and dot point D, delegate to the General Manager the authority to finalise and execute the joint use facility project deed and lease between the New South Wales Department of Education and Council. I've had a mover and a seconder. All those in favour?
Aye.
Again?
Can I speak against? Can I have an opportunity to speak?
We'll just take a step back, councillors. I came out of committee and I never gave the mover the opportunity to speak to it if they'd like to speak to it in council. No. Would anyone like to speak against the project?
Speak against, yeah.
Councillor Walker.
Yeah, look, first of all, I'd like to commend the speakers today for their presentation and for noting the wonderful modern facility. No argument about that. Very, very good. But this is we've got so many facilities for the school, and as Councillor Horton mentioned, all matters have been resolved over the years for the school, for the children. Children will benefit into the future, but we forgot the public. And I have to disagree with one of the speakers saying that he speaks on behalf of the community, because there's a big percentage of the community that are supposed to use this facility, but to me there's too many unanswered questions for an ageing demographics, which was quoted. And it concerns me greatly that just at the last minute there, two most important points was the transport and access for those people. At the moment, if people, the general community, and say that the less advantaged in mobility, need to find a way some 60 metres from where they can be dropped off at the moment on the existing plan to the new modern facility. That's indeed if it's catering to them at all. We learned from the pool the exercise that proper prior planning is so important, and yet here we are about to sign off on it, and that proper prior planning hasn't been carried out. I know that this same process went through in Victoria after their emergers, where a lot of councils got excited and joined with the schools and put their library, community library on the school. Since then, having a daughter in, and having had a daughter in Victoria in one of those communities, they've now had to go out and build their own community library because it didn't work. To me, there's too many unknown factors. Too many, and right at the last minute, we're still changing costs and arrangements. The goalposts for the community are continually changing. I'm not disputing in any way that it's absolutely ideal and everything's right for the school and for younger people. But for the general community who have not been consulted in this matter at all, I have real concerns, and I will be voting against it.
Thank you, Councillor Walker, for your input. Against, anyone like to speak for it? The seconder? No. Anyone else like to speak against it? No. If that being the case, councillors, I will once again officially put the recommendation, as I spoke earlier, of dot point A and dot B. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Councillor Walker, to be noted against. That resolution has been carried. Councillors, thank you very much. Just before I go off that and we move on, I'd like to just thank a few people who've been involved along the way that need recognition. First of all, there was any number of community members on the steering committee. The input they had and the time they gave up themselves to help this project come together and work out how it would work has been much appreciated by everyone. A group from the school and the project reference group and the number of meetings and how we've been treated and accommodated by Young High School. Thank you very much for that, and they're present with us tonight. It's been much appreciated, your input. Look, there's a lot of people from Schools Infrastructure New South Wales I dealt with, probably too many, but David was there. If you're watching David from the start, he was really good. Most recently, Brian McCowan, Marty Smith, and probably the most calming influence and factor in this whole project being a lady called Claire Beattie, and I'm pretty sure Claire's watching, so thank you very much for your help, Claire. It went a long way to making sure that this project is where it is now. And my last thank you, and probably the biggest one, is to the former project manager who worked for Hilltops Council, Carly Smurden, who we all know people get paid to do a job, but some people just do that job with that little bit more passion and dedication than the dollar line indicates. And while there was some contentious about this earlier on, no one could doubt the commitment and the resolute that Carly Smurden had to make this project come to fruition for the school and the community. So thank you also goes out to Carly. Yep. On that note, thank you, councillors. We will now go back to our order of meeting and start again. And thank you to the two high school representatives who spoke. Thank you. And I should also mention, it was remiss of me, Trezelle's there from Hennessy College, who's always played a part in the steering committee and been helpful along the way. Righto. So back to 19345, is that correct?
That's correct. Page 48.
Page 48 in the hard copies, council committee structure and council representation. There's a report there, councils, and a recommendation. What I'd suggest is anyone who's on one of those committees who doesn't want to be on those committees, now's probably the time to talk. I have a couple of points to note that on the Australian Day Committee for Young, Section 355 Committee, it's got just myself down as the representative. Councillor Greg Armstrong is on that. It needs to be corrected. Any other councillors? Has anyone had any correspondence or word from Councillor Tuckerman about her intentions on those committees? She was concerned about missing a meeting and because of these committees and the placements of them. Have we had any word from her to say she'd like to stay on those, or no? I find that strange, but anyway. Okay.
Mr Mayor, I have one point to make. The Regional Tourism Committee, my name's there. I resigned from that committee about 3 months ago.
Okay, that be noted, please.
Can I have a point of clarification on, if I may, on the Access Committee? It's a Regional Access Committee, and yet it's only down as a a minor committee where it's probably got the same status as a traffic committee.
Through the chair, in your original recommendations, there were two principal resolutions going through during the term, in October 2017 and February 2018. In your original resolutions, your intention was to actually merge both those committees, the traffic and the access committees. However, they weren't merged, and hence your access committee still sits down here as this smaller committee. So the intention was always to bring them together because they do have relevance to work together. So we haven't changed any of the committee structures. We've just, because the smaller committee wasn't dissolved, we've left it there.
Can we change it now?
Through the chair, you actually had a binding resolution back in 2017 to bring them together. Happy to take that direction.
No, not together, but to give it some a regional status. That's all.
Yep.
The same as traffic, the access committee.
So you're saying you'd like the number 19, section 355 committee placed up in the pink or the red where the statutory committees are? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we're up to the same status as the local traffic.
Yeah,
so it's only the status.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
No problem.
Okay, I'm pretty sure that can be done.
And through the Mayor,
Councillor Rolls.
for my sins, I'm on the Arts and Cultural Committee, and I would be happy to, if a nomination's required, to go on the Southern Tablelands Arts.
Well, there is a nomination required there. So Councillor Rolls is happy to be nominated to fill that spot on the Southern Tablelands Arts Incorporated. Starts, it's called. Yep. I'm happy to move that for Councillor Rolls. Councillor Wallace happy to second that. Councillors in favour of that?
Aye.
Thank you. That puts Councillor Rolls on the Starts Committee. Thank you.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to nominate for the Weeds Committee.
Councillor Flannery. Where have I lost it? Where is it?
15.
Got it, yep, okay. Did we decide, pardon me, did we decide about how many councillors or how that, we did a make-up of that committee?
There was a recommendation.
Yeah. Through the chair, you did define what you wanted your membership to be, yes.
So Councillor Flannery, any other councillors like to be on that? Councillor Wallace, I thought may be the case.
On the Weeds Committee.
So we have two councillors nominated to be in the Weeds Committee, Councillor Wallace and Councillor Flannery. I'll move that. Someone like to second that? Councillor Horton. Thank you. All those in favour of that? Aye. Right. So be it. Thank you, councillors. So we're required, where else are we required? Boorowa's Men's Shed, Boorowa Red Hill Reserve Committee, Brebbury Progress Association, Young Youth Initiatives. Okay. You know what happens to councillors when they're not present, don't you? For the Brebbury Progress Association Committee? Thank you. I'll move the Councillor Walker be the nomination there, seconded by Councillor Wallace. All those in favour? Again, thank you, Councillor Walker.
I'll nominate for the Boorowa Men's Shed, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. I'll move that Councillor Flannery be the rep on the men's shed.
Just a question. How many? What's the meeting?
Through the chair, they
technicality.
They meet potentially 4 times a year. Yeah.
And that was seconded by Councillor Rolls. All those in favour? Again, thank you. So we've got the Boorowa Red Hill Reserve. Look, I'm not too sure about that, how often that meet, but I'm happy enough to. I'll join in that. If someone would like to put my name up.
Yeah, so moves.
Move Councillor Walker, seconded Councillor Horton. All those in favour? I did say I wasn't going to do that, righto. So that fills that one in. So we've filled all them.
The youth initiatives. Yeah, sure.
Okay, Councillor Walker's happy to do that. I'll move that. Seconded Councillor Horton. All those in favour? And thank you. One thing I might note to staff, In the green, number 16, the Young Showground Trust. I'm happy to take the position again. Council has to advise the Young Showground Trust in writing that I am the nomination from Council to be on that. They have lifted their game with their procedures. So having filled those committees in, we'll go back to the recommendation. Do I have a mover and a seconder for it? Move, Councillor Manchester, thank you. Seconded, Councillor Wallace, thank you. All those in favour? Aye. Again, carried. Thank you, councillors. We move on to 19346, section 355, committee schedule of delegations. Yep, the report's there and there's a recommendation there, councillors. Would any staff like to speak to it?
Yes. You look through the chair. This report's here because council actually asked for the report at the last council meeting, at the last ordinary council meeting, I should say. The point of note is that really all of your section 355 should have delegations. They don't. There's only 6 of them that do. And so that means that we need to review the existing delegations that have been handed out, but also ensure that we develop the delegations for the section 355 committees that need them. Certainly we note that there's one of the committees here that actually has a term of reference but doesn't have a delegation schedule. Indeed, that might be part of a greater debate about whether you need so many Section 355 committees and whether they should be advisory in nature, but that is something we can workshop at a later date.
Thank you. So I have a mover and a seconder for that report. Move, Councillor Rolls, thank you. Seconded, Councillor Wallace, thank you. No questions, I'll put that. All those in favour? Again, so be it. Thank you, councillors. We go over to item 3, community recognition scheme. I intended to bring one for staff, and I've forgot all about it, and I've got to think. They're called the regional fire cadets that recently placed first again. Yes. What's their proper title? I'll find it, but I'd like to have them, a letter of recognition to them. Sam Tout is involved with it, I'll give that to you, Deirdre, or the General Manager, It was reported in our local paper and I just forgot to bring it with me, but So we go on to the General Manager's report, 19347, General Manager's delegations, and the report's there and the recommendations there, councillors.
Move the recommendation, Mr Chair.
Move, Councillor Manchester. Seconded, Councillor Flannery, thank you. Any comments or debate? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour? Again, so be it. Thank you, councillors. 19348 is the public submissions on the audited financial statements for the year ending June 18. The report recommendation is receive and note the report. Councillor Manchester, thank you. Seconded, Councillor Horton. No questions or queries, I'll put that. All those in favour? Again, so be it. Councillors. 19349 is the annual Government Information Public Access Return. The report and the recommendations there, councillors. Move, Councillor Walker. Seconded, Councillor Wallace. All those in favour? So be it. Thank you, councillors.
Mr Mayor, do we get any advice on why the refusal or part refusal occurred?
Look, through the chair, that is, the report's actually just a high-level report. When we do actually make a decision around something, if we do refuse something, there will be a reason for that. It may be commercial in confidence, or indeed of a particularly sensitive nature that can't be shared. The fundamental principles of the GIPA, though, are to make as much information available as possible. So the council staff try very hard to make sure that things can be released. So where they can't, there's usually a strong reason. But yes, that detail does exist and we could share that.
I find it quite conflicting, the whole process. I've only ever been involved in one GIPA application, and it was refused, and because they needed to give the people that I'd asked to have the information on more time to consider it, and then it was refused. So to me, they're a bit like codes of conduct. They mean absolutely nothing. It's just, I don't know how the system works, and it takes a long time. But anyway, we moved and seconded, and we voted on that. We did. We go to the next item. We did. 19350, Public Library Infrastructure Grant. I'll hand to the General Manager to talk to this now. We're talking about more money. Who knows?
Look, through the Chair, Council has an opportunity to apply for a public library infrastructure grant. The good news is there's no matching funds required. So certainly there's an opportunity here to seek anything up to $500,000 in relation to infrastructure that will support a new library, if so voted, and it was. However, the infrastructure could have been also equally transferable to the existing library, and it's around ICT and fittings and fit out in relation to the library. So we need to actually apply for this within the next fortnight, and so hence we wanted to bring this to Council to get your endorsement that we're applying for $500,000 to do so.
Okay, thank you.
Mr Mayor, just some questions. What's a question for the General Manager? What's the timeline for the application?
Look, through the Chair, the applications need to be lodged by the 8th of November, and our understanding is that they'll be decided in due course at some point during the financial year.
What are the specifics of the grant? I mean, I find it troubling that it's going towards a library that we're already putting $6.5 million towards, and then we have no application for funds for BOOROWA or HARDEN.
Well, that'll leave our loan, won't it?
Through the Chair is no, they're not specifically for HARDEN or BOOROWA. However, obviously the ICT is designed, say, for the estimates we're using are for the new library, but the fit-outs are things like beanbags, stackable stacks, adaptable furniture, and they could be actually distributed across any of the libraries.
Well, I noted in the report on the Young Library, including the costings or the joint use library facility, that most of what we would seem to be applying for a grant is going to be funded out of the budget that's allocated towards the project. If you look at the list, that to the extent that there's a list in there, would seem to me that money we're applying for grants here is already catered for under the existing budget allocation. Is that correct?
Through the Chair, it's not necessarily catered for, but certainly this would support that project, and yes, there is an allowance in the current capital construction project for the new library of similar items. This would support that same project, and yes, give us a lesser impact on Council's financial funds going into the project, if that was the case.
Without going back and forward like a yo-yo, I would like to either put forward an amendment that allocates the money between all three libraries, or in fact I would think it's a better use, given the allocation of funds that we're already, the loan funds and grants, that we put the application in and it goes towards the libraries at HARDEN and BOOROWA. That said, and also hearing or listening to what Councillor Walker said, and having some reservation in voting for it, the existing facility, because there's no landscape plan and no access, vehicular access, which was one of the key concerns I had with the joint use library facility. Is there any room to either allocate this money towards funding so that we could get vehicular access to the library, or alternatively, I think this application should be amended to go towards HARDEN and BOOROWA?
Look, through the Chair, no, in relation to the first part of the question around vehicular access, no, it's an infrastructure grant. It's specifically about libraries and pertaining to the libraries. the roadworks or pathways wouldn't be seen as infrastructure. They're ancillary to a library. In relation to a broader application, certainly we'll take the whole of Council's direction.
How about, Councillor Flannery suggested an amendment there. Councillor, I think you'd be able to put something in after we endorse the public library infrastructure grants application up to the maximum value of $500,000 to, and we'll take your wording from there, maybe.
Can I just make a comment before? If you actually go over to page 224, you'll actually see that we actually do have to fund by 50%, so it's a dollar for dollar funding. And what the General Manager indicated is the fact that we're already putting money into the public library infrastructure grant, and that could be construed as funding to go this 50-50. But if we actually go down Councillor Flannery's line, we will also have to find $500,000 to match it.
250, yeah.
Okay, I must have missed the first bit. I'd sort of said it was no dollar for dollar, but yeah, I must have missed that somewhere. That's what was said, but anyway, that's not what's in there. Yep. No, I agree.
Well, thank you to Councillor Manchester, but is there any ability for us to go back to Schools Infrastructure New South Wales, should we be successful with this grant, for them to reallocate funding that is allowed under the 20% regime so that we could get vehicular access and this money could then be used for the fit out? I do think it is a significant failure if we don't have access for the elderly.
Look, through the Chair, in relation to the landscaping, which is the componentry I think we're debating, there is the Schools Infrastructure New South Wales will go out to tender shortly. There isn't the ability to build in vehicular access to the landscaping design. However, in conversations with Schools Infrastructure New South Wales, is they can put the tender together in such a way as to make the landscaping an element that could be pulled in or out of the project. So there is the ability to have some degree of componentry to the landscaping, but in relation to your vehicular access, certainly in the public consultation and the steering committees that we've had, opinion is very divided about whether people want vehicular access or not. Indeed, the most vocal of community residents have said they don't want anything happening to the park beyond, pathways, etc.
Okay, councillors, we've talked around this a little bit. I still haven't got a move in a second for the recommendation.
Mr Mayor, can I move with an amendment, or with a B? So A, be that they endorse the application, and B, part B, be that Council engage with Schools Infrastructure regarding reallocation of the existing budget towards landscaping and ancillary works, should we be successful with this grant. For landscaping and ancillary works. Should Council be successful with the grant?
A question to that, if I may. So these grants, are they conditional, as mentioned IT here, are they conditional to any special factor? The conditions of the grant that we're applying for?
Through the Chair, I think the intent of what Councillor Flannery is saying is probably doable. This would form a separate grant and a separate legal agreement in relation to the state, but it is reasonable to think that we could go back and say, well, if we're contributing from another pot, is that can we keep the plans alive for the landscaping and the access? And my understanding is that certainly the way the tender will be put together is that the landscaping will be an element that can be taken in or out. So certainly that does give us a degree of flexibility, and certainly if council gives us a direction in relation to that, we can certainly follow that up.
Thank you for that. Okay, so we've had a dot point B put there, and I haven't had a mover or a seconder yet, so it's moved Councillor Flannery, seconded Councillor Manchester. There's no more questions in regard to that. I'll put that matter. All those in favour? Again, thank you, councillors. Item 351 we've dealt with. Flick over to item 352, which is a fraud control policy, July 19. There's a report there and a recommendation there, councillors. Anyone want to talk to that?
Recommendation.
Move Councillor Manchester, seconded Councillor Horton. Sorry, hang on, hold the bus.
Look, through the chair, what point? Sorry, apologies. Sorry, forgive me, councillor, I'm just a bit slow here.
What are you after?
352,
page 324.
Apologies. Fraud control policy. Sorry, it's not
Page 324.
Oh, 324. Apologies. Sorry. Right. Gee. Apologies. No, look, through the chair, if it's the report I'm talking about is 19352, look, apparently, council, you have endorsed this policy. It's just that it's been endorsed under another name, the internal public interest reporting policy. That's my apologies.
I've had it moved and seconded by Councillor Manchester and Councillor Horton. Any questions in regard to it? I'll put it. All those in favour? Again, so be it. You councillors. 19353, Code of Meeting Practice Policy Changes. Moved Councillor Walker, seconded Councillor Flannery. All those in favour? Thank you. 354, Hilltops Council Office Christmas close down. Moved Councillor Horton, seconded Councillor Walker. Any questions, debate? If not, I'll put it. All those in favour? Thank you. 355, Cash and Investment Report. Moved Councillor Manchester, seconded Councillor Flannery. Thank you. Questions or discussions? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour? Again, thank you, councillors. 356 is a report on the reduction in interest rates on the 1920 budget. The Acting Financial Officer report. I don't know if anyone wants to speak to it, or we can just... The report's there and the recommendations there, councillors.
Just a question, Mr Mayor. I assume... So basically we're covering... reports detail how we're covering the reduction in income from, in part, I've lost my... Part of it is a FAG grant, part of it is reduction in interest payments, and the other one...
Emergency service levy.
Emergency service levy. What is the FAG grant? What are they to be allocated along similar lines that they would have... that the lost interest would otherwise have been allocated against, and what is the impact of not having the FAG grant available?
Look, through the chair, council receives financial assistance grants in two forms, for a general component and also a roads component. We budgeted for the actual figures that we had for last year, and we have been advised that all councils have received a higher increase than anticipated, and indeed that additional amount comes from the additional increase to the financial assistance grant that we didn't budget for. So indeed there's no impact there as such. It's just that we have received extra money and we can allocate that against the budget.
In other years we've had the early payment of some FAG grants, so it's not an early payment
No, through the chair, in relation to the accounting treatment for fags, we're either bringing them into our current accounts as either operating revenue or onto our balance sheet as prepayments. And however, this is really just an increase.
Thank you for that. And talking about the fags and federal assistance grants, there was a lot of talk in Sydney the other day with the Minister for Local Government in regards to the criteria and the methodology of how they're dealt with, and the need for more of that funding to come to regional and rural New South Wales. Okay, councillors, I need a mover and a seconder for that. First, Councillor Manchester, thank you. Councillor Flannery, seconded, thank you. No further questions or debate. I'll put that. All those in favour? Again, thank you. 19357, collection of rates, annual charges and water usage charges. The report there, Councillor, and it's to receive and note the report. Move, Councillor Horton, thank you.
Second it.
Councillor
question.
Walker. Question, Councillor Walker.
Are we starting to be a bit concerned about how quickly these rates are coming in?
Through the chair, there were some delays in actually the rate certificates actually going out, so that hence that sort of, I think probably the collection rates are slightly down. We're not overly concerned, but we are monitoring that, and certainly the aim of this report is to demonstrate and give you some transparency around that. We haven't been doing that for the last year, so this is really about showing the status of the accounts as we currently stand.
Thank you for that, Councillor Walker. Any other further questions? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour? Again, so be it. Thank you, councillors. 358, 2019-20 fees and charges, the Young Aquatic Centre.
Move the recommendation.
Move, Councillor Walker. Seconded, Councillor Manchester. Questions or queries? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour? Again, thank you, councillors. 359, development application stats for September 19. Reports there. Receive and note. Councillor Horton, thank you. Seconded, Councillor Manchester, thank you. Questions or queries? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour? Again, carried. Thank you, councillors. 360, update on protection of the Environment Operations Clean Air Regulation 2010, and the reports there and the recommendations there, councillors.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Moved, Councillor Flannery. Seconded, Councillor Walker. Questions or discussions? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour? Yeah, so be it. 19361, draft Hilltops Community Participation Plan. Report moved, Councillor Horton.
Can I just ask the Director if he might speak to this, please?
We can most certainly. Can I get a seconder first, please? Second, Councillor Rolls, thank you. Okay, so the Acting Director of Sustainable Growth, here's you go.
Okay. So as the report indicates, we are required to produce this document to give an idea of the level of consultation that will occur around the different planning practices of Council. And the idea was that this document would be out for consultation prior to the deadline they've set for us, which is the end of this year, towards the end of this year. It is not the only document we'll produce in regard to consultation, it's just an overarching statement in regard to that. So, for example, with the work we're doing at the moment on the LEP, LSPS, etc., a far more comprehensive and succinct consultation plan we produce for that as well. This is just a summary of all the things we'll do.
Very good one, too.
Thank you. I cynically said at the LEP meeting the other day, we've now got to produce a plan on how we're going to plan. Back to year 7 high school stuff. But the Director, I might just note, the Director's done a lot of very worthwhile work led from Councillor's perspective by Councillor Armstrong as part of the LEP committee. I think we are getting through a lot of the staff involved are doing a lot of work. I think later in the business paper it details the responses, so there's a lot more community engagement that needs to be had, and hopefully we'll have a lot of feedback from the community. We've already had some good responses to the strategy consultative papers that have gone out, but in the coming months we need to engage more with the community, and this is the plan or how it's going to occur. But look forward to getting out with and mixing with the community and finding out what they really are looking forward.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery, for that. So I had a mover and a seconder. Any other questions in regard? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour? Again, it's carried. Thank you, councillors, and thank you to the director for all that work. 19362, Hilltops Economic Growth and Land Use Strategy, Post-Exhibition Submissions Report and Submissions Table. And back to the Director, actually he's Director of Sustainable Growth on this one. He was only the acting. Hello. Hello, something's changed, yeah. Just a minor word. Yeah, I know, I picked that up, yeah. Would you like to speak to that, Director, before?
Just briefly, this has been going on for about a year or two now, the development of these strategies. There was a range of these. This is only one of three. The next two will come up over the next couple of months with the outcomes from submissions. The biggest message behind this is it was great to get that input from the community and get this data to assist us in making future decisions, but it is a background document only. It is going to be used to inform our future economic strategy and our environment and culture and community strategies and our LSPS and LEP. So anything that's been picked up through that process, whether it be the document itself or the submissions you can see in the attached table, it's taking that information we've got from the community and those data sets and bring that across for consideration in those documents as we produce those over the next 3 to 6 months.
Thank you for that. So do I get a mover and a seconder for that report, please? Councillor Rolls moved. Councillor Horton seconded. Any other questions? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour? So be it. 19363, BOOROWA Drought Security Project Update. There's a report there. To receive and note the report. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved Councillor Manchester, seconded Councillor Horton. Questions? Comments? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour? Again. Thank you, councillors. Item 19364, Lambing Flat Chinese Tribute Garden, Stage 1 delivery.
Move with a comment.
Moved Councillor Walker, seconded Councillor Manchester. Councillor Walker.
This is good to see that this the Chinese Tribute Garden project is actually making a start on delivery. But what concerns me, in my mind, this project has a huge potential for tourism in this area, and what we're seeing here is a fairly small project at the end of the day, and even when we look at parking and facilities like that, I'm concerned about what potential could be achieved out of this. It's absolutely a beautiful area at the moment, and this will only make it better. And the potential for tourism is huge, but I think the facilities will be very limited at the end of the day.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. I've got a comment to make and some questions to ask on this matter. I had some drawings presented to me a while back before my visit to China in regards to what was planned for the gardens. This report indicates that maybe half or less of what was shown then could be done. The irrigation upgrade that was never mentioned before, but I'll skip on that. I'll go to question to the project manager who was in charge of this, of import fees and duties. The report reads about getting some materials and stuff sent from our sister city. I don't know how that's going to go. I've got some reservations about that. Below the line costs, I'm not too sure what that entails in my line of business. It's about $200,000 mark. We have a council cost of $50,000. I'd like to know and have a breakdown of what that cost is. We have a consultant's cost of $82,000. You bet your life I want that broken down and shown to me how we've spent $82,000 on a consultant to come up with 6 or 7 drawings. I find this borderline unbelievable, but I'll take it on board. But I'm asking the question, and we'll want them produced for councillors in black and white, and a breakdown of these costs. There is $130,000, $132,000 there in council cost and consultant cost for this project. I am completely gobsmacked as to how that could happen. I'm not saying it didn't, but someone could show me how that costing was done, or can answer to it right now, I'm happy to hear it right now. Because at the initial line there's $558,000 for the 4 items that are there, and all this money below the line to take it out to $1 million is in costs that I just don't know where they are. Import fees, below the line costs, council and consultant costs. So half the $1 million has been spent to produce 6 pretty drawings. We must be able to do business better than this. That's my point. I'm happy to take answers of the director or take it on notice, whoever's in charge of this project.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to take those questions on notice. A lot of this was done before I got here. My apologies. Mr Mayor, I'd like to take those questions on notice. A lot of this was done before I got here, so I'll need to do the investigation, certainly the below-the-line costs for you. The consultants' costs, I've got a fair idea, but I'd like to come back with more detail to the entire council on that, just where they are and what that was for.
So the consultant costs, below-the-line costs, import fees and duties, and council costs. If we could have a breakdown of how those costs were accumulated, I would appreciate that.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'll provide them separately.
Thank you. So the recommendation is to receive and note the report, endorse the recommendation to deviate from supply of goods from China, and endorse council staff reaching out to our sister city, Lanzhou, to assist with sourcing Chinese structures and elements.
Come back with a report, okay?
Yeah, look, I'm open to council on what you want to do with this matter now, and if you want a dot point D there, which states that we ask that the breakdown of the costs be presented to council.
Just ask for breakdown of the costs, the basic $500,000 costs.
Just a question for the director. Part B, it says deviate from supply of goods from China. What does that actually mean?
Under the Local Government Act, we would normally go straight to tender, and those tenders would only be typically be directed to Australian companies. As set out in the report, the Chinese delegation expressed a preference to supply these items from China, from the original craftsman, which would require a separate resolution of council so that we didn't go to tender, but went to the Chinese craftsman directly.
Councillor Wallace.
You wait.
Especially given that the whole idea was to create some more authenticity about the project. Thank you, Councillor. So we got dot point D there. I've got a mover and a second. Is the mover and a second happy with the amendment with dot point D being there? You are?
Could I add to that the breakdown of costs and details of community consultation?
Okay. Happy with that, Councillor Flannery, to be added there? Was it Councillor Manchester? Sorry.
I guess the question would be, are we therefore going to endorse the expenditure of the money directly from China? Can we get clarification? If we vote this in with the amendment, we're actually voting through that expenditure?
Yeah. Look, through the chair, that's right. It is a recommendation before you. If you need to amend part or whole, you need to consider that.
Then I'm not all that comfortable voting it in at this stage without enough information.
I might speak against the motion, Mr Mayor, in that I think we're later in this report it details the happenings that go on when we approve motions but then want information back. So I'd like to speak against it and suggest, with advice from the Director, we either defer the motion or we substantially amend it.
So you're foreshadowing?
I'm foreshadowing a deferral, but I'd like advice from the Director on whether that will negatively impact the project, and if so, we need to amend them.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. No, in terms of time frame, I don't believe that would negatively impact the project. Obviously, we'd like to get this project built as soon as possible, but we have an extension with these funds to allow us to not hold us to the end of this year or middle of next year. So I think that deferring this project to get that report back to Council wouldn't be an issue in terms of delivery of the project, and it would certainly assist Council's understanding.
Okay, given that, we've got a foreshadowed for a deferral moved by Councillor Flannery. Have I got a seconder for that? Second to Councillor Horton. If anyone else would like to speak for or against that foreshadowed?
I'm at loss to see what it achieves that couldn't be achieved out of the existing resolution. We, as an old favourite saying of mine, we keep wanting to put things back, and I don't know whether we actually achieve anything. So, I'm more in favour of the original.
I'd point to the fact that where we talked earlier on about rushing in and making resolutions and costing ourselves further money. I'm just not too sure, as Councillor Flannery pointed out, about what we endorse. If we endorse this now with this money to be spent overseas, I just don't know enough about it to be happy to endorse this resolution. So, okay, so I've got a move and a second for that foreshadowed. I'll put that foreshadowed motion. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. So that now becomes. So that now becomes the motion. So is it up there? Defer the item. Yep. Okay, it's there. So that now becomes the motion. Have a mover and seconder for that, please. Councillor Flannery, seconded. Councillor Horton. All those in favour? Against? That's carried unanimously. Is that correct, councillors? I called a vote for that as the motion. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. 19365, Jugiong Park on-site sewage management funding update. There's a report and a recommendation there, councillors.
Yeah, I'll move that recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Move Councillor Horton. Seconded Councillor Flannery. Thank you. Any questions or debate around that report? If not, I'll put it. All those in favour?
Aye.
Again, it's carried. Thank you, councillors. 19366 is the Young Tennis Court refurbishment project update. Move Councillor Walker. Thank you. Seconded Councillor Wallace. Thank you.
I've just got some questions, Mr. Mayor.
Question, Councillor Flannery.
Mainly around my lack of full knowledge of the project, really.
Yep.
And I have read the report, but some of these defects that I think we're trying to fix, and question of the Director, are we throwing good money after bad on the building? Looking at some of the defects, I would have thought some of the movement in the building is just movement of the soils that's occurred because of the nature of those soils. Can we get some advice from the Director on the expenditure? I also think we, just as a general comment, the fact that we've got money left over and we've already looked at the library facility where clearly there's a bit of additional money required. We've got the Chinese tribute garden which has been pruned back. I would like to see Council actually resolve to, where we do have surplus money, look at the best use of that money over all the projects that we have rather than just spending it because we've got money to spend. So if the Director could just give us a bit of a rundown on the building. its life expectancy, and what other alternatives there might be for the money, including lights at the Boorowa tennis court.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Certainly the building at the tennis club is showing significant signs of age. I don't believe it will last forever, but certainly with some maintenance around repairing, guttering, re-stumping, generally stabilising the building, I think it would last for another 20 odd years. That's for the main part of the building. The rear part of the building where the kitchen is a real issue, and as part of the further report and the exact scope that I was referring to here, I would have to look at whether that rear part of the building should remain and whether the building itself should be repurposed. And that, Councillor, you are correct. This is exactly why this report is here, to get some direction from Council as to whether I spend more time looking at this building or whether I take that money and put it somewhere else. This is exactly why this report is here. So, in terms of maintenance on the building, yes, it would. We can extend its life to probably 20 or 30 years from today. At that point, I believe the building would need replacing anyway. Right now, I don't have the money anywhere else to replace that building.
Thank you for that. My comment around the tennis court refurbishment is I would speak strongly against taking any money away from that precinct, given the scope they had initially envisaged and some joining up with other clubs, and it just never quite got over the line. So they've worked very, very hard to try and make the best out of what they had, and they had to cut back on the courts they wanted to put there originally because of financial restraints, and they and I will say where a lot of other groups have pushed the boundaries and sought more funding through some great leadership, they've bit the bullet and said this is what we can afford with our courts. We do not want to get caught halfway through a project and run out of money. So they're conservative with what they did and how they dealt with it, and as a club and their members, I know, and I speak with them, they were very happy with how it's been done. So while I concur with Councillor Flannery's point about making sure we spend the money into the wisest way we can, I believe with this extra money being spent on their clubhouse will go some way to making it respectable and usable for some considerable period to come. So I would like to seek support for that resolution. But I understand Councillor Flannery's point about getting best value for our money, I surely do. But this is an organisation who's worked really hard and have done a lot of work themselves to get this project in under where it is because of some voluntary hours.
Mr Mayor, I think all sport's great, but tennis is especially great because young kids can play with their grandparents, elderly people play. We're talking about getting access into the library. Well, here's an opportunity for elderly people. They can play tennis, keep themselves fit so they can get into the library. And I haven't seen the building, but looking at it on the iPad here, it looks to me like it should be knocked down and rebuilt. That's what I think. So I will be supporting the motion.
Through the Mayor.
Councillor Rolls.
Could I just make a comment here? As a member of the club and one who uses the clubhouse regularly on a weekly basis, it needs a fair amount of repair. It certainly couldn't be left in the state it is, especially taking into account the new courts that will be there and presumably will be used competitively as well. So as part of Hilltops, I think it's incumbent on us to make sure that the clubhouse is of a standard, which it certainly isn't at the moment. I take a point that at the moment there aren't the funds, and I think all the members acknowledge that for a new clubhouse, but certainly for that money to be spent on refurbishment is money well spent.
Thank you for that. Okay, we've had a bit of a discussion about that. Councillor Flannery,
no, just a knockdown rebuild was probably more what I was seeing, and rather than spending money.
The financial restraint is there, yeah. Okay, Councillor, I've had a mover and a seconder for that. All those in favour? Again, it's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. And again, I commend the committee at the tennis club for the work they've done. 19367 is the works report. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Manchester. Seconded Councillor Wallace. Any questions in regard to that report? If not, I'll put it. All those in favour? Again, so be it, thank you. 19368 is the action summary report. Note the status, endorse the removal of completed items. Do I have a mover and a seconder for that report? Councillor Horton. Seconded. Councillor Flannery.
Yes, with question. Well, just question on the Weeds Committee, advertising and getting the committee formed.
Through the Chair, I have circulated to councillors. We did go out for advertising. We only received 2 nominations, so that doesn't actually constitute a committee. Happy to take direction from council. If you'd like me to re-advertise or target, happy to do that.
I'm happy to speak to you afterwards about a couple of nominations I've received.
Thank you. And I'm pretty sure there's been correspondence from Councillor Tuckerman with the same indication, so thank you. Okay, so we've got a mover and a seconder. If there's any other questions or not, I'll put that. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. My tag takes me to correspondence for attention. I hope you're correct. Yep, the recommendation is there. Do I have a mover and a seconder for for the correspondence for attention? Moved Councillor Horton, seconded Councillor Manchester. Any questions or debate? I'll put that. All those in favour? Thank you. 369. The requiring action is the JUGIONG Advancement Group item. Moved Councillor Walker, seconded Councillor Horton.
Mr Mayor, I've had correspondence, and I probably think other councillors have too, regarding a pathway, I guess, from I think the name Riverside Drive up to the shops, which I think are labelled or noted as 4 doors up. Can we get advice from the director or the general manager on what funds may be available, or how a pathway or walkway can be constructed, what budget they might come out of? The concern is that pedestrians have to walk up the road to access those shops.
Look, through the Chair, obviously when we develop our budgets, we've got 3 or 4 months to raise any issues that we can fund in our budget, so it's not funded in our budget. But simply put, is the community is very entrepreneurial and has good accounts, and we certainly, as you'll see in a previous report as part of the agenda, have approached the committee to see if they were willing to assist us, and we certainly could do that. The committee does have enough funds to actually be able to certainly fund at least half a project or advance a project that they might be happy with.
Could I ask, I guess along that line, could we get the director to provide a costing or an estimate of constructing a pathway, noting that in other towns, particularly BOOROWA and HARDEN, I assume in Young, RMS funding, I was going to say RTA funding has been used, cycleway funding has been used in a de facto manner for pathways, and whether that would also apply to the villages, and in particular the request from JUGIONG?
Through the Chair, there is a budget a process there. Certainly, if that's Council's direction, we can do that, or we can meet with the committee to see if they're willing to fund something first and take it from there.
Okay. All right, that's been noted by staff. Thank you, Councillor Flannery. I had a move in a second. I did, so I'll put that item. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. Item 19370 again is the advancement group, and there's a recommendation there, councillors. Report move, Councillor Horton.
Second with a question.
Second with Councillor Walker with a question.
Those expenditure items, they've been, they're within our budget, aren't they?
Sorry, through the Chair, which page are you looking at?
Page 550. Item 19370.
Look,
particularly B and C, because we voted on A separately.
Yeah. Through the Chair, I'll just defer to the Director of Infrastructure.
Councillors, certainly we just voted on A. We don't have any a budget item within this year's budget for the shade structure. That was deleted as we were trying to balance our budget this year. And the disabled access within the pool, it's something we've spoken about previously, about putting up a budget item next financial year for all 4 of our pools to get a better disabled access system into each pool. So no, we don't have budget allocations for B or C.
Through the Chair, can I just make a comment too? I think we should look for the budget, our next budget, the question of shade, because I think that it's becoming almost no H&S for us, that adequate shade is provided at all our facilities, including pools.
Thank you for that.
We discussed this last year in November or December on the eve of the swimming season, and I thought there was a general agreement or understanding that we would at least get some sort of temporary and cheap shade structure in place, given council had cut down a tree that was used for shade, with the aim for a longer term solution. Also noting, can I get clarification on point C? It says disabled access to the swimming pool, incorporate disabled access within the upgrade of the car park. So are we talking about disabled access from the car park to the swimming pool, or disabled access into the pool? The way I read that, it's actually from the car park to the pool.
Look, through the Chair, that's certainly how it reads. And certainly the work that we did around the disabled access to the swimming pools was around about roughly $70,000 to put a disabled access from the surround of the pool into the pool, so that I see them as 2 different things, yes.
Through you, Mr Mayor, it is definitely from the car park to the pool. If you look at point 3 on page 551.
It says for those in wheelchairs.
So that's double the cost. So that's disabled access into the pool and to the pool.
Yes.
Yeah, they actually do.
So this recommendation, councillors, this happened once before, is asking us to spend money. I think the question's been asked. Is it budgeted for? How are we going here on procedure and how things should work? If we endorse this recommendation of expenditure of funds, if we haven't had it budgeted for?
Have we voted on this yet?
No, we haven't.
Mr Mayor, could I'm not too sure. I mean, given we're endorsing the recommendation as a whole, I think there requires a separate recommendation from council, which would be, we've got to receive and note the report.
Yep.
We need to, if there are no funds available, then we need to add point B and point C to next year's budget items.
Yep.
Could I also add a separate line, which would have to be dot point 2, as a separate line item, because this is adopting the recommendations from JAG. Dot point 2, that council look to a short-term solution of shade for this coming swimming season.
Through the Mayor, wasn't that, Valerie, you spoke before about, when we talked about it before, and that was actually the umbrellas, wasn't it? And the tents that went up then?
So it has been achieved.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Yes, and in part, in item 2 down below on page 550, we have bought some umbrellas, we have bought some shade tents. Yes, they are temporary. Are they permanent? Absolutely not. My reading of the minutes, JAG would like to see something more permanent than that, as they don't believe they're satisfactory at the moment.
So I'm back to my point, and I might have missed something earlier, but there's 2 very different matters here. We receive and note their minutes and their reports, that's fine. When you get down to receiving and noting the minutes that want us to endorse expenditure, first for the sewerage system, they're happy to pay half of, apparently, looking at that, and then the shade and the disabled access, I just don't know if we can endorse that in this type of report.
Through you, yes, Mayor, I'll just receive and note the report. A, B, C, D, and part of D, but section B and C of D, that this come back to a costing and be part of the budgetary process for 2021.
That's fine.
Yep. Yeah, I think we need to be extremely careful about when we're endorsing these reports from these committees and when it comes to financial expenditure. Remember air conditioning or something at one other hall somewhere, something like that happened once before, so we need to be a bit cautious about that, and we need to be cautious how these recommendations... Well, if it comes from the committee, we can't do anything about that. If they consent it to it like that, but we need to explain to them that there is a process in place. Okay, so have we got something there that I can put to council to actually vote on with an amendment and taking the parts out that need to be taken out? You've still got dot point A in there that we're committing to spending fundings on the sewerage, and we're not, are we? We're not.
We dealt with that earlier, Mr Mayor.
Beg your pardon? Yeah. Well, that's to say that...
Yeah, Mr Mayor, the sewerage in JUGIONG is a top priority in my book. The visitors that come there, particularly at Easter and Christmas, and just at weekends, I was out there the weekend before last, they had markets on. There must have been 800 people went to the St George Hotel for lunch. There's just people everywhere, and the sewage system can't cope. Council spends a lot of money every year going out there emptying the sewage tanks, pumping them out. And something I think I read here, $14,000 in the last probably 12 or 15 months been spent on that. So it is a priority. It's probably a gateway to Hilltops in one sense, being on the main highway, and it's not a very good place to be proud of when you want to go to the toilet out there, and it's overflowing and it's just unbelievable. And particularly now the drought year, it's going to be hotter and drier and it'll be worse. So it needs urgent attention. I know it's not budgeted for, but it's a top priority.
Councillor, it's just been brought to my attention. We actually dealt with the matter in item 19365 and resolved it. So in the heat of the battle, and we're going through the paperwork, it's a double up. It's in their minutes, but we've already dealt with it in item 365. So it can be left in there, extracted, do what you like with it.
It should be left in there.
Yeah.
There'd be the 40,000 because it's part of their minutes to contribute 40,000 towards it. And I believe it's that it's correct up there now. That hang on, they've changed it.
We can't amend their minutes.
No, you're right. No, we have to accept or decline to accept that recommendation, and that's what I'm saying. We can't accept that as it reads. And if I say take out, I agree with Councillor. Then you cannot change their minutes. Yeah. So what we probably need to do is not accept these minutes because of those item B and C down the bottom. We just can't take them out.
No, we're not taking them out. We're actually saying we'll put it in the budget process.
Yeah.
So through the chair, you can receive and note the minutes, but you don't have to action the recommendations. So you can receive and note the minutes and then itemise what you will action as part of that resolution.
Take it out and endorse the following recommendations. Take that out because we're not endorsing. I don't know. I mean, someone put something up we need to vote on this matter.
I did make the point, Mr Mayor, earlier that we need a second dot point, which simply says point one would be receive and note the minutes.
Councillor, wait a moment. Staff. Councillor Flannery.
We really need to have dot 1 is receive and note the minutes of JAG, and then dot 2, which deals with our action items.
Exactly.
And our action items would be to put parts D, B and C into the budgetary process. I also concur with Councillor Horton's comments regarding the septic, although we've dealt with it separately.
Yep.
We need to borrow that money ASAP.
Yep.
So, through the Chair, is that recommendation now, just noting that we've got a series of minutes there that we've got to endorse, just received because they're all coming in, making sure that they're all up to date, and the last item, which is that the General Manager come back with costings and estimates for shade and disabled access to be included as part of the 2021 budget.
I had a mover and a seconder for that, so it was Councillor Horton and Councillor Walker. Are you happy for that to be amended that way? Yes? Yes? Yep, okay, thank you. With that being said, I'll put that, all those in favour? Again, agreed. Thank you, councillors. Just like the way that these minutes are presented to us. 19371 Galong Section 355 Committee Meetings. Receive and note the minutes. Moved, Councillor Horton. Seconded, Councillor Flannery. Any questions or discussions in regard to that? If not, I'll put it.
Mr Mayor, just a question for the Director, and I did miss the, I was in Hay the other day when they had the most recent meeting, but just an update. There was a consideration in the minutes that they put an application in for community funding to upgrade their kitchen, and then there's also, I believe, the fence was to be done. I missed the meeting. Councillor Horton might even be able to advise us on where some of those items are up to regarding kitchen BPA expenditure. Money was going to be used there, I think. We agreed.
Through the Mayor, they were talking about buying a fridge and a new stove for the kitchen and taking that out of a $15,000 fund they've got there. I also informed them that they have $212,000 in an account for the Sibelco money that's paid there regularly. So no decisions were made other than the kitchen. They were most appreciative of all the jobs that have been done out there, the fencing, the roofs fixed up, and et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, that's all I can tell you.
Through you, Mr Mayor, the VPA money that's out there, I believe that the fence has been finished now. As far as the hall upgrade, I believe that was coming out of the some of the community funds that we had for the halls. And if there wasn't enough, then they were going to apply to the VPA committee for. But we suggested they use the community funds first.
And through the Chair, Councillor Manchester, that's correct. There was $20,000 left over in the grant funds that could have been used towards the kitchen, and the balance to come from the VPA.
Thank you for that. Just, I suppose it's off the matter, but it's on the matter. I think I did ask for a breakdown, a report on the funding that was allocated to our community halls and how it had been dealt with and where it was and what was left over and what had been spent. Might be noted by staff, please, if they could think of that. No more questions in regard to that. I'll put that. All those in favour? Again. So be it. Thank you. Item 19372, Wombat, Section 355 Committee Meetings. There's a recommendation.
Move that.
Move Councillor Manchester. Councillor Walker. Any questions in regard to that? If not, I'll put that. All those in favour? Thank you. 373 are the committee reports requiring no action. Receive and note the reports. Moved Councillor Wallace, thank you. Seconded Councillor Horton, thank you. All those in favour? Again, so be it, thank you, councillors. 374, Harden Pool, questions on notice. The reports and recommendations there. If the Director would like to talk to it or take questions, or have a mover and a seconder first, please. Moved, Councillor Manchester. Seconded, Councillor Rolls. Thank you. Questions?
Mr Mayor, well, if my understanding, it goes through the various iterations of this project, but we, and I stand to be corrected, but at the August meeting voted to overturn the ordering of the tilt-up poles so that it would free up $40,000 for other capital works, either at Roberts Park or even allowing money to stay at the pool. So that seems to have been missed on the report. And this report was to come back with other options for, part of the overall project was in no man's land a little bit because it was short of funding, as is noted in the report, and we've also since put an application in as part of Roberts Park, which I think the thought might be that there would be a crossover of funds that might help with both projects. But if the Director could advise us, well, certainly I am very strongly of the view that those tilt-up poles were rejected in the August decision. Have they been ordered?
No, the tilt-up poles haven't been ordered, though. There's just the normal poles. Councillor.
You what?
I presume
So where's everything up to now? We were going to get a report on the pool, the engineer's report on the pool pole.
Put your mic on, please, Councillor. Yeah.
The question of the integrity of the poles at the swimming pool. Yes.
Through the Chair, was there already a report earlier on that actually saying that the poles were at the end of their life and they didn't meet specification, and they couldn't, and even if they could be put up, we couldn't put lights on them, we couldn't turn them on? I understand.
We certainly had a report that said that there was rust pitting at the bottom of the poles, and I think I made the comment that since they've gone to a splashover pool, or I can't think of the correct words, and the concrete is about 300 below ground level, water now runs from the edge of the pool. It's not caught by the return drainage line, and I'm sure is causing the rust around the poles. And I asked, why aren't we considering patching those poles and then concreting over the top of them? And a report was coming back to Council on it.
Councillor, if you go to page 605, it looks at the recertification of those poles. Certainly I've reported to Council previously that there is full depth corrosion at the interface between the top of the concrete and the soil where that concrete is buried. That full depth corrosion will mean that the entire pole will need to be removed from the ground, the concrete removed, the pole patched, then recertified to be used, and then new foundations built. The costing in there is general costing that SQ3 have provided with us about the costs of those. There are 6 of the 8 poles would need to be replaced in that manner, with another 2 that may need to be replaced depending on what the structural engineer finds. The current design is for 4 new poles, which will provide Council with new poles which have a design life of 40 to 50 years. It will provide Council with the proper lux level over that pool, which will reduce our risks. The current 8 poles have a reduced lighting level in the pool, which provides Council a fairly major risk, and I wouldn't be able to put additional luminaires on those existing poles.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Director. Okay, so the recommendation is there, Councillors. I've had a mover and a seconder. Any questions? I'll put that. All those in favour? Again, it's unanimous. Thank you, Councillors. Thank you for that report, Director. Okay, my tag now takes me to I believe. Notice of motions, rescission motions. There's been neither of those. That takes us to someone like to move us into our closed session of council, given the matters we're about to deal with have commercial ramifications. Moved, Councillor Manchester. Seconded, Councillor Wallace. All those in favour? Again, thank you, councillors. We are now enclosed. So, goodbye to our viewers.